Time for a reality check on the Confederate flag controversy. I'm Brian Lilly with TheRebel.media. I'm here at Bluesfest in Ottawa, right by the Canadian War Museum, because a controversy of sorts has erupted in the nation's capital over a man showing up to the festival here wearing shorts with the Confederate flag on them. A volunteer named Amanda Lowe snapped this picture of the man in question and put it out on Twitter and hashtagged it racism. The man in question was a guy named Robert Russo. He's from Messina, New York, about an hour and a half southeast of Ottawa. Amanda Lowe had never met him. She didn't know him, and yet she felt entitled to call this guy racist because he was wearing the Confederate flag shorts. This is getting out of hand, folks. How far do we have to go to rewrite our history if we're going to start saying that you can't have anything with the Confederate flag on it or it's racist? I've talked about this before. Do we have to take away all the buildings and schools and monuments to politicians who had racist past as well? What about Woodrow Wilson? He resegregated the American Federal Civil Service, and yet there are awards and federal buildings across the United States named for him. Mackenzie King here in Canada, he was an out-and-out racist who said no Jews were too many, who had a policy of keeping Chinese immigrants out. He brought in the Chinese Exclusion Act in 1923. Wilfrid Laurier, he's on our $5 bill. He excluded Chinese immigrants, Indian immigrants. He actively discouraged black immigrants from coming up to the United States. How far do we have to go? Then there's another issue. The big stage behind me there, Kanye West opened this festival last week. Kanye West, African-American singer, he had a clothing line out a couple of years ago that included the Confederate flag on it. He may still be selling it for all that I know, but is Kanye West a racist? And what about Lynyrd Skynyrd? They're going to be performing on this stage in a few hours, and they have held the battle flag up on their stage for years. They say it's about heritage, not hate. Now, granted, in 2012, Lynyrd Skynyrd said they were going to stop using it. Fans got upset, and they decided to acquiesce to the fans' wishes and said, we'll keep doing this, but it's about heritage, not hate. You can't equate the Confederate flag to the Nazi swastika. They're not the same at all. Are there problems? Absolutely. But how far are we going to go, as I said on this, if we're going to completely rewrite our history? Do you ignore the good or ignore the bad and only remember the good, or do you remember both and try and learn from it? That's the wiser thing to do. Wiser still, perhaps, might be to look to the example of Charleston, South Carolina, because this push to get rid of the Confederate flag in public, anywhere, even in private life, is a result of the Charleston shooting. 9 people killed in Mother Emanuel African-American Methodist Episcopalian Church. A horrible, horrible act of violence, of racist violence, perpetrated by a man who admitted that he wanted to start a race war. How did the people of Charleston react? Did they riot? Did they start a race war? No. No, they came together in unity for healing, for prayer, to try and find a way to not let the shooting tear them apart. They said they would not give the race war that the shooter was looking for. Isn't that the better way to go? Instead, since then, we've had activists puzzled by the fact that Charleston isn't tearing itself apart, decide that they will find a way to tear people apart by pushing for this flag ban. I can understand South Carolina Governor Nikki Haley saying it's time for it to go from the state grounds. I understand all of that. But this pylon that includes an American tourist in Canada being denounced, just doesn't make sense. It's taking it beyond the pale, and it's time for it to stop. Time for a reality check.